Hello, good evening. Today we're here back to cover chapter 15 of Chem 1046, which would cover chemical equilibrium. So for me, one thing that I learned is that you don't add liquids to the Kc value. And also if Ka is higher than acid, then acid, so if Ka is higher, then acid is strong. And if Ka is lower, then that means acid is weak. Another thing was that water is an amphipheric solution, which would mean that it's able to react to both base as an acid. One thing that I did struggle with though was reaction quotients, and the way I was able to learn better this time around was to continue reading the notes on my own, because I remember we weren't able to cover everything in class, and just looking up example activities that involve, that really helped a lot. So I would like to know what you did and how was it for you this chapter.
For me, one topic that was a little bit easier to comprehend was the reaction quotient. Basically, for me, what I understand is whenever it's a mixture that contain both the reactant and the product that is not at equilibrium. So when you calculate the Q, which is the reaction quotient, it's product over reactant. And I've learned that if Q is greater than K, the K constant, it's we have more product. If it's equal to K, it's at equilibrium, and if it's
Mm,
less than K, you have more reactant.
right.
One thing that I had difficulty is understanding the relationship between the rate constant K and the chemical equation that can be which can be very challenging. It was challenging for me, especially because the relationship is not always stated or straightforward. So it was difficult because the rate constant is not directly observable from the chemical equation. And also, it depends on the temperature in the mechanism of the reaction. And it's not just the overall. Of the balance equation, and also determining the rate constant often require experimental data. Um, a
Yep.
little bit difficult. What I did to overcome this challenge, I studied, like you said, I studied the reaction mechanism. So I breaking down the reaction into smaller steps and learning how the mechanism determine the rate constant does clarify or help me understand more the rate constant relates to the process. And also I use a lot of practice questions,
Yep.
working with multiple questions problem does which involve the determining the rate law, and calculating K helps reinforce the conceptual links between the rate constant and the experimental data. And I'll also focus on the temperature determinants. So understanding the Arrhenius equation and how temperature affect K provide a little insight on how to understand the rate constant as well. Also, when I do those steps, I try to ask questions. Why and how, like, oh, why does this step determine the rate? Or how does this mechanism explain the observed rate constant? That really helps me as well.
Right. That's a really smart strategy. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, Taylor, now I would like to know what you think about this chapter and how it was for you.
Chapter 15 was a pretty easy topic. I liked going over the equilibrium and like the different ways to like shift it. Like if there's a decrease in volume, you have an increase in pressure. I thought that
Mhm.
was really interesting to learn. One thing I was confused about was the relationship between Kc and Kp. Um,
Me too.
I yeah, I still don't understand it a little bit. But one way I did work on it was I looked up YouTube videos to determine the like the relationship between KC and KP, which helped me a lot. And I realized that the products have to go on the top, and then the reactants have to go on the bottom.
Yes.
But overall, I think chapter 15 was really a fun chapter to learn, and I was really excited learning it and
Right.
enjoyed it a lot.
And remember, no liquids. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no liquids.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Mario, I would also like to know what your perspective on this topic is.
Thank you. So, for this chapter, what I realized I understood more than anything else was the relationship between KP and KC, because it's kind of the math is kind of similar. You're really just replacing what your known is, which in like KC, it would be like the concentrations and stuff.
Hmm.
And then in KP, it would be like the different pressures of each reactant and product. So
Right.
that I think I pretty much understood. But what I had the most trouble understanding was the different factors that affect the movement of equilibrium, like whether or not things move to the left or to the right, or whether or not they affect the equilibrium at all. And
Hmm.
also ice tables. I wasn't really familiar with that. And if like I haven't really, it's been a while since I've taken chemistry,
Yeah,
so
I got you.
I
Yeah.
had some trouble remembering all of that stuff. So really what is helping me is just like making up different ways to remember stuff like that.
Yeah.
So basically um different things that affect equilibrium are like the pressure. If the pressure of one thing increases and the pressure of one thing decreases, the volume of the reactants and the products, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that is really where I find myself having trouble. But like the more I make up things to help myself remember, the better things get.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for sharing with us. And that was chapter 15, chemical equilibriums.